Captain Lee Hanna walked across the metal floor of her ship's main control room. The Unity's Dawn was flying through space, heading back to human territory after another meeting with alien leaders. She thought the trip had gone well. The aliens seemed friendly, and they had made new trade deals that would help both humans and aliens. But something was wrong. Lee Hanna looked at the glowing screen in front of her. Strange messages were flowing across it in alien languages. Her ship's computer was trying to decode them, but the words it showed made no sense. Why would peaceful aliens be talking about weapons and destruction? "Captain, you must see this right," Tao said Park Jinwoo from his seat at the communication station. His young face was pale, and his hands shook as he worked at his controls. Park had been watching the normal alien radio channels when his computer found something hidden in the signals. Lee Hanna walked over to his station. "What did you find?" Park's fingers moved quickly over his keyboard. More alien text appeared on his screen, but now the computer was translating it into human language. As Lee Hanna read the words, she felt like someone had punched her in the stomach. The messages were between high-ranking aliens in the Galactic Council. They were not talking about trade or peace. They were talking about humans like they were tools, like they were weapons to be pointed at enemies. "Show me more," Lee Hanna said quietly. Park brought up file after file. Each one made the truth clearer and more horrible. For 37 years, ever since humans first met aliens, the Galactic Council had been lying to them. Every war humans had fought, every enemy they had defeated, every time they thought they were saving innocent people, it had all been planned by the aliens. The aliens had made humans fight their battles for them. Lee Hanna read about the Turanian mining collectives. She remembered that war. Human soldiers had died fighting them because the aliens said the Turanians were evil killers who attacked peaceful worlds. But the alien messages showed the truth. The Turanians had only been trying to mine asteroids for metal. The Galactic Council wanted those asteroids, so they told humans the Turanians were monsters. Then there was the Nexus Trade Federation. Humans had spent 2 years fighting them in a bloody war. The aliens had said the Federation was enslaving other species and stealing their resources. But the secret messages revealed that the Federation had been competing with Council businesses. The Council couldn't beat them fairly, so they sent humans to destroy them. The worst was the crystalline communes. Lee Hanna's own brother had died in that war. The aliens had shown humans pictures of destroyed cities and dead children. They said the crystalline beings were spreading across the galaxy like a disease, killing everything in their path. Human fleets had burned entire crystalline worlds, but the alien messages called the crystalline beings poets and philosophers. They had been peaceful creatures who only wanted to share their art and music with other species. The Council had killed them because their ideas about peace and cooperation threatened the Council's power. Navigator Kim Minho looked up from his station. His voice was barely a whisper. "Captain, we have been their attack dogs." The control room became very quiet. Only the soft humming of the ship's engines could be heard. Lee Hanna felt sick. All around her, the other crew members stared at their screens with shock and horror on their faces. Communications Officer Park Jinwoo pulled up more files. These ones showed how the Council talked about humans when they thought no one was listening. They called humans useful primitives and controllable aggressors. They laughed about how easy it was to make humans angry and point them at enemies. One message made Lee Hanna's hands clench into fists. A council leader wrote, "The humans are perfect weapons. They have strong emotions and simple minds. Tell them someone is hurting innocents, and they will fight to the death. We can use them for another 20 or 30 years before we need to dispose of them like we did the others. Dispose of them, like garbage." Lee Hanna turned to face her crew. These were good people. They had joined the space service because they wanted to protect Earth and help humanity find its place among the stars. They believed they were heroes, making the galaxy safer. Now they knew they were killers. Killers who had been tricked into murdering innocent people. "Captain," said Engineer Cho Sung-ho from the back of the control room, "what do we do now?" Lee Hanna looked at the alien messages still flowing across the screens. Somewhere out there, The Galactic Council was probably planning humanity's next war. They were deciding which species would die next at human hands. But now humans knew the truth. "We go home," Lihana said. "We tell everyone what we learned, and then we decide what humanity is going to do about it." The Unity's dawn continued flying through the darkness of space, carrying the most important secret in human history. Behind them, the aliens continued their plans, not knowing that their perfect weapons had just learned they were being used. Everything was about to change. Admiral Choi Seung-hwan sat in a chair deep underground on the moon. The old man's hands shook a little as he touched the glowing control panel in front of him. At 73 years old, he had spent most of his life leading human space fleets. He thought he was a hero who helped keep peace in the galaxy. Now he was learning that everything he believed was a lie. The secret room around him was full of floating screens showing alien documents that humans had never seen before. These files came from the deepest parts of the Galactic Council's computer systems. Reading them was like watching a horror movie, except everything in them was real. Colonel Yoon Tae-hyung stood next to the Admiral's chair. The younger officer was reading through files on his own screen. His face grew paler with each document he opened. "Sir, you need to see this pattern," he said quietly. Yoon pointed to a timeline floating between them. It showed the history of many different alien species over the past 800 years. But this was not a normal history. It was a record of death. The first entry was about the Vorthak hegemony. They had been a strong military people who controlled dozens of planets. The Council had made friends with another species called the Kellian Crusaders. The Council told the Kellians that the Vorthak were evil and dangerous. The Kellians believed them and went to war. After years of fighting, every single Vorthak was dead. Then the Council turned on the Kellians. They found another species to fight them. Soon the Kellians were extinct too. Admiral Choi read about the stellar drifter clans. They had been space nomads who lived on huge ships traveling between stars. They were peaceful traders who never hurt anyone, but they had powerful weapons to defend themselves from pirates. The Council decided they were too strong and might become a threat someday. So the Council told the Thanax Empire that the drifters were planning to invade Thanax planets. The Empire's fleets hunted down every drifter ship in the galaxy. Millions of innocent families died in the cold darkness of space. After that, the Council found reasons to eliminate the Thanax Empire too. "Look at this, sir," Colonel Yoon said, pointing to another section of files. "The Council has a name for what they do. They call it galactic gardening." Admiral Choi read the document Yoon had found. It was written by a high-ranking council member, explaining their methods to new members. The alien wrote about how they kept the galaxy peaceful and organized, but their idea of peace was terrifying. The Council saw themselves as gardeners. They thought the galaxy was like a garden that needed to be carefully maintained. Some plants in a garden grow too big and take resources from other plants. A good gardener cuts back these plants or removes them completely. To the Council, different. Alien species were like plants. If a species became too strong, too independent, or too difficult to control, they were weeds that needed to be removed. The Council would find another species that could be used as a tool. They would make friends with this species and slowly convince them that the target species was dangerous. They would show fake evidence of attacks or threats. They would appeal to the tool species' desire to protect innocent people. Then they would watch as their tool species destroyed their enemies for them. After the job was done, the Council would find reasons to eliminate the tool species too. They could not let any species become powerful enough to threaten Council control. Admiral Choi felt sick as he read through the list. Over 24 intelligent species had been completely wiped out this way. Billions of individuals who had dreams, families, cultures, and art, all erased because they inconvenienced the Council's plans. "Sir, look at this file," Colonel Yoon said. His voice was shaking now. "It is about us." The file was titled Human Psychological Profile and Utilization Assessment. Admiral Choi opened it with trembling fingers. The document was written like a science report about laboratory animals. It described humans as highly aggressive but controllable through appeals to justice and protection of innocence. It noted that humans had strong emotional responses and could be easily motivated to fight if they believed they were protecting the weak. The report said humans were perfect tools because they actually believed they were doing good when they killed the Council's enemies. Other species had to be bribed or threatened. Humans would fight for free if they thought they were heroes, but the worst part was at the end of the report. It estimated that humans would be useful for approximately 50 to 70 years before disposal becomes necessary. Disposal. Like humans were broken machines that would eventually need to be thrown away. Admiral Zhou realized that humanity had already been used for 37 years. They were running out of time. He thought about all the wars he had fought, all the enemies he had defeated, all the medals he had received for protecting innocent people. How many of those enemies had actually been innocent themselves? How many species had died because Admiral Zhou believed the Council's lies? "Colonel," he said quietly, "gather all our top military leaders. We need to have a meeting immediately." "What? Should I tell them, sir?" Admiral Zhou looked at the files floating around them, centuries of death and manipulation, billions of lives destroyed by creatures who thought they had the right to decide who lived and who died. "Tell them we have been fools," he said, "and tell them it is time to stop being fools." The terrible news moved from planet to planet, faster than anyone expected. On Mars, where humans had built huge factories in the red dirt, workers stopped their machines and gathered around television screens. Their faces were shocked and angry as they watched the emergency broadcasts from Earth. In the asteroid mining colonies at the edge of human space, miners came up from deep tunnels where they had been digging for rare metals. They crowded around. Communication devices, listening to reports that changed everything they thought they knew about their place in the galaxy. On the giant space stations orbiting Alpha Centauri, millions of people stopped what they were doing. Children stopped playing. Adults stopped working. Everyone stared at screens showing the secret alien documents that proved humanity had been tricked for decades. Dr. Jung Mirai stood in front of the most important government building on Earth. Inside, representatives from every human world had gathered for an emergency meeting. As the director of the Institute for Galactic Studies, she was one of the smartest people alive when it came to understanding alien civilizations. But even she had been fooled. Her research team had worked day and night to check if the leaked council documents were real. They ran every test they could think of. They analyzed the alien languages, checked the dates, and compared the information with human military records. Everything matched perfectly. The documents were real. Standing at a podium in front of hundreds of government leaders, Dr. Jung activated a holographic display that filled the air above the audience. It showed a timeline stretching back 800 years. "The pattern is clear," she said, her voice steady despite the horror of what she was explaining. "Every species that has worked for the Council has eventually been destroyed. Look at these numbers." The timeline showed species after species. The Vorthak hegemony had served the Council for 93 years before they were eliminated. The Kellian Crusaders lasted 112 years. The Thanax Empire managed 87 years. "We have been serving the Council for 37 years, Dr. Jung continued. "Based on their historical pattern, we are in extreme danger. Most species are eliminated between 50 and 70 years of service." In the audience, government leaders shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Some whispered to each other. Others stared at the timeline with growing fear. Meanwhile, in military command centers across human space, General Han Ji-soo was organizing the largest spy operation in human history. She sat in a room filled with computer screens and communication equipment, coordinating hundreds of secret missions. Human ships disguised as normal trade vessels were flying deep into alien territory. Their crews pretended to be merchants selling human goods, but they were actually mapping every Council military base, defense system, and weapon they could find. The information they sent back was frightening. Captain Oh Dong-hyuk piloted his fake trading ship through the Council's core systems. His vessel looked like a harmless cargo hauler, but it was packed with the most advanced spy equipment humans had ever built. Hidden sensors scanned everything around them. What they found made Captain Oh's blood run cold. The Council had defense systems that could destroy entire planets. Automated weapons platforms floated in space around their worlds, ready to fire beams of energy that could burn through anything. Their fleets contained tens of thousands of warships, each one larger and more powerful than the biggest human vessels. They had weapons that could crack moons in half, shields that could protect entire star systems, technology that seemed like magic compared to human science. But as Captain O and his crew studied the Council's defenses more carefully, they began to notice something interesting. The aliens had grown lazy. Their defense systems were incredibly powerful, but they were also predictable. The Council had been the strongest force in the galaxy for so long that they had stopped thinking about new threats. Their weapons and shields were designed to scare enemies into surrendering, not to adapt to new types of attack. Captain O sent a coded message back to General Han's headquarters. "The Council thinks they are gods," he wrote. "They believe nothing can threaten them. That overconfidence is going to be their biggest mistake." Back on Earth, Dr. Jung was finishing her presentation to the government assembly. The holographic timeline still floated above the audience, showing the destruction of species after species. "We have a choice," she said. "We can wait for the Council to decide we are no longer useful and try to eliminate us like they did to all the others. Or we can act first." In the audience, President Kim So-jin stood up. She was a small woman, but her voice filled the entire assembly hall. "What are you suggesting, Doctor?" Dr. Jung looked directly at the president. "I am suggesting that we do something no other species has ever done. Instead of waiting to be eliminated, we eliminate the threat first." The assembly hall became completely quiet. Representatives from colonies across human space stared at Dr. Jung with shock. She was talking about going to war with the most powerful civilization in the galaxy. But as the silence stretched on, something changed in the faces of the government leaders. Shock became anger. Fear became determination. Humanity had been used. They had been manipulated into killing innocent species. Their friends and family members had died fighting the Council's wars, believing they were heroes protecting the innocent. Now they knew the truth. And humans did not forgive betrayal easily. President Kim's voice cut through the silence. "Doctor, how long do we have to prepare?" Dr. Jung smiled grimly. "Not long enough, but humans have never let impossible odds stop them before." Ambassador. Shin Hyejin walked slowly through the long hallways of the biggest building in the galaxy. Her special clothes for important meetings made soft sounds as she moved across the shiny floor. Behind her, 4 other human diplomats followed quietly. Their faces looked calm, but inside they all felt nervous about what they were about to do. The Grand Assembly Hall was enormous. It was so big that over 2,000 different alien species could fit inside at the same time. The ceiling was shaped like a giant dome that stretched up so high it seemed to touch the clouds. Today, every seat was full. News had spread quickly across the galaxy that humans had asked for an emergency meeting. Aliens from thousands of different worlds had come to watch. Most of them thought they knew what would happen. They expected the humans to apologize and beg for forgiveness. They thought humans would surrender. They were wrong. Council Prime Velithar sat on a tall platform that let him look down at everyone else in the hall. He was a huge alien from one of the oldest worlds in the galaxy. His people had been part of the Council for over 1,000 years. When he looked at the small group of humans standing in the center of the room, his expression seemed almost amused. To him, humans were like children playing games they did not understand. Around the circular room, thousands of alien eyes watched the humans with curiosity. Some aliens had multiple eyes, others had eyes that glowed different colors. A few species communicated by changing the patterns on their skin instead of speaking. But they all focused on the tiny human delegation, standing alone in the middle of the vast space. The humans looked very small compared to the massive hall around them. There were only 5 of them, while thousands of aliens filled the seats rising. Up toward the dome ceiling, Ambassador Shin, Council Prime Velithar's voice was so loud, it seemed to come from everywhere at once. Special equipment made sure his words reached every corner of the enormous room. "We understand your species wishes to discuss certain concerns about your recent military activities." Shin Hyejin touched a small device on her collar that would translate her words into every alien language in the galaxy. She spoke clearly and calmly, making sure her voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. "Honored representatives," she began, "I did not come here to talk about our past. I came to warn you about your future. We know what you have done to us. We know what you really are, and we are giving you one chance to save the innocent people among your populations." A wave of confused sounds spread through the assembly hall. This was not what the aliens had expected to hear. They thought the humans would apologize and ask for mercy. Instead, the human ambassador was speaking like she was in charge. Some aliens made clicking sounds with their mouths, others buzzed or hummed. A few species showed confusion by changing their skin colors to different patterns. They had all come to watch humans surrender, but the humans were acting like they had already won a war that had not even started yet. "You have 7 standard solar cycles," Ambassador Shin continued. Her voice never shook or wavered. "Remove all civilian populations from your core worlds, your military bases and your government centers. After that grace period ends, we are coming for you." The chamber exploded with noise. Some aliens laughed so hard they could barely breathe. Others made angry screeching sounds. A few species showed their outrage by flashing bright colors or releasing strange smells into the air. Council Prime Velithar's expression changed from amusement to something that looked like pity. He stared down at the human ambassador like she was a confused child who did not understand how dangerous the situation was. "Ambassador," he said, his voice carrying a tone of gentle mockery. "Perhaps your species does not understand the reality of your situation. You number barely 8 billion people across only 12 worlds. The Council commands fleets so large they can block out the light of entire star systems." Shin Hyejin smiled then. It was not a happy smile or a friendly smile. It was cold and sharp like a knife. Several alien representatives sitting near the speaking floor actually moved back in their seats when they saw that smile. Something about it made them feel afraid, though they could not explain why. "Prime Velithar," she said, looking directly up at the towering alien leader, "you have made 2 critical errors. First, you assume we still think like the other species. You have manipulated and destroyed over the centuries. Second, you believe we came here to negotiate with you." She turned slowly to face the entire assembly. Thousands of alien faces stared back at her. Some looked confused, others looked angry. A few were beginning to look worried. "This is not a negotiation," Ambassador Shin announced. Her voice echoed through the vast dome. "This is not a threat. This is a courtesy notice. We are being polite. By warning you in advance, 7 solar cycles, use that time wisely." The chamber erupted in chaos. Aliens shouted in languages that sounded like music, grinding metal or explosive gas. Some species communicated their anger by releasing powerful smells or flashing lights. Others showed their outrage by making their skin glow with bright patterns. But, through all the noise and confusion, Ambassador Shin Hyejin stood perfectly still in the center of the speaking floor. She did not look afraid. She did not look sorry. She looked like someone who had just declared war on the entire galaxy. And somehow, that made her the most terrifying person in the room. Admiral Lee Kyungmin stood in the control room of his massive warship called Retribution's Edge. The ship was so big it could carry 50,000 people and had weapons that could destroy entire cities. Around him, glowing screens showed the positions of human battle fleets spread across 17 different star systems. His officers worked at their stations with calm focus. Lieutenant Yang Subin monitored enemy movements. Captain Kang Woojin coordinated attack plans. Commander Im So-young managed communications between all the human fleets scattered across the galaxy. They were preparing for the largest military operation humans had ever attempted. The Galactic Council had made a terrible mistake. They thought humans would fight like all the other species they had manipulated over the centuries. They expected humans to charge forward with anger and emotion, making it easy to predict their moves and defeat them. But humans were different. While the Council had been playing their games of manipulation for 800 years, humans had been watching, learning and preparing for the war they somehow always knew would come someday. "Admiral, all fleets report they are ready," announced Tactical Coordinator Bae Hyun-soo from his station. "Stealth systems are active. Target locks are confirmed." Admiral Lee looked at the clock on his command screen. 7 days had passed since Ambassador Shin had given the Council their warning. The grace period was over. It was time to show the galaxy what happened when someone betrayed humanity's trust. "Begin the operation," Admiral Lee said quietly. At exactly 8 o'clock Galactic Standard Time, the human response began. Across 47 Council worlds, human ships suddenly appeared out of hyperspace. They did not come as invaders trying to conquer planets. They came as instruments of precise destruction, targeting only military and government facilities. The Council had never seen anything like it. On the Council's home planet of Centralis Prime, Fleet Captain Song Jiwon watched through her ship's sensors as human weapons tore through defenses that had protected the capital world for 800 years. The planet was surrounded by huge orbital defense platforms, each one powerful enough to destroy a small moon. But the humans had studied Council technology for decades. They had learned how every system worked, found every weakness, and built better versions of the same weapons. Human ships fired precisely targeted electromagnetic pulses that shut down the defense platforms one by one without destroying them completely. The Council's great automated defense networks were supposed to coordinate responses across entire star systems. These computer systems could control millions of weapons and ships at the same time, making them nearly impossible to defeat. But Commander Ryu Min-seok and his team of human computer specialists had been preparing for this moment for years. They had secretly infiltrated the Council's computer networks and learned how to control them. When the battle began, the Council's own defense systems turned against them. The humans were not interested in killing innocent people or conquering planets. They wanted to send a message that would echo across the galaxy for thousands of years. As each Council world's military and government systems went dark, human ships broadcast the same message on every radio frequency in every known alien language. The Galactic Council has fallen, the message said. Their manipulation ends today. To all the species they have controlled and betrayed, you are now free. To anyone who might follow their path in the future, remember what happened here when you betray humanity's trust. The speed of the human victory shocked everyone. Council worlds that had been centers of galactic power for centuries went silent within hours. Their massive fleets, their planet-killing weapons, their advanced technology, none of it mattered when facing an enemy that had spent decades preparing for exactly this kind of war. The Council had grown lazy and overconfident. During their centuries of power, they had not faced a real challenge in so long that they had forgotten how to adapt to new threats. Their weapons were powerful, but predictable. Their strategies were based on intimidation rather than actual fighting skill. Humans, on the other hand, came from a planet where they had spent thousands of years fighting wars against each other. They understood strategy, tactics, and the art of warfare in ways the Council had never bothered to learn. Within 72 hours, the political structure that had controlled galactic civilization for 8 centuries simply stopped existing. Council worlds went silent. Their government buildings were dark. Their military bases were shut down. Their leaders had either fled or been captured. Automated distress beacons on Council worlds broadcast endlessly into space, sending the same message over and over again to anyone who would listen. The humans had kept their word. They had done exactly what they promised to do. General Park Jin-hwan coordinated the entire operation from his command center on Earth. As reports came in from human fleets across the galaxy, he realized something remarkable. Not a single human soldier had died in the operation. The Council's military might, built up over centuries, had been completely ineffective against an enemy that truly understood warfare. The human fleets began their journey home, leaving behind a galaxy forever changed. The Council's reign of manipulation and betrayal was over. Species that had been controlled and used for centuries were now free to make their own choices. The galaxy would remember this day, not because a great empire had fallen, but because a new kind of species had risen. Humans had shown that betrayal creates enemies who will never stop, never forgive, and never make the same mistake twice. The age of the Galactic Council was over. The age of human influence had begun.